Let's go to question 20 now. Here we have a circle and we have a point on the circle. And one way to start this question is to imagine an XY axis. And instead of the center being 0, 0, we're going to make it HK because we're told here that the center, point C, has coordinates of H, K. Now we're told that from that HK, we're going to the right by 1 because something on the X value is a left right, and it's going +1 in the X direction and +102 in the Y direction. Now, square root of 100 is around 10. So square root of 102 is somewhere around 10. So we're going to be going over by about 1 and up by about 10. So the proportion kind of puts us around there. And so this can be point A, which has coordinates of H plus 1, K plus root 102. So now that we have the center of the circle and a point on the circle, we can imagine a circle that fits that space. And it'll look something, let's see here, just get it a little more centered. Something like that. And for this circle, we know the length of the radius. Let's just stretch it out a little more in this direction so it's not as lopsided. Okay, so we know the length of AC, or we can figure out the length of AC. So that's this segment right here. Now, a really important thing to know is that any diagonal segment is the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So for this diagonal segment we see here, in our minds, we can be imagining this right triangle. And we do actually know the vertical and horizontal lengths. So let's imagine that off to the side here. So we've got this segment, and we're remembering that any right triangle has a vertical component to its movement as well as a horizontal component to its movement. And we were told that the horizontal component is 1 and the vertical component is root 102. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of the hypotenuse, which is the radius of the circle. So we'll say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 1 squared plus root 102 squared is c squared. 1 plus 102, because square root of 102 squared, those two things cancel, equals c squared. Now we have c squared is 103, and we can take the square root of both sides. And so c is the square root of 103. And that's the radius length of our circle. Now we're being told that there's a point B. And we know that point B is somewhere on the circle, and it creates a right angle because ACB is going to be a right angle. So B could be here, or B could be here. We're not really told in what direction. All we know is that B is some point on the circle that creates a right angle for angle ACB. So let's imagine it to be right around there. And we have a right angle there. And we know that the length of CB is root 103 because the radius of the circle is root 103. So anything that is a radius is going to have that length. So they're asking us in this question for the length of segment AB. That's this right here. Now that is an isosceles right triangle. two of the side lengths are equal, and it is a right triangle. So we need to be reminded that any isosceles right triangle is automatically a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Now, the 45, 45, 90 ratio is on the formula sheet, but really you should know it by heart. But why is it a 45, 45, 90? Because if you have 90 right here for the right angle, that leaves 90 degrees left in the triangle. And for an isosceles triangle, these two angles, this one, and this one, are going to always match. You've got the two isosceles side lengths that creates symmetry in the triangle. And so we're supposed to know that these two would be the angles that are the same. If those two angles have to add up to 90, then they'll each be 45. So it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And you should know that the ratio, you should know by heart, that the ratio is x, x, x root 2. So coming over here, we know that the side lengths are 103, 103, root 103, root 103, and root 103, root 2. So that's x, x, and x root 2. So now what's the length of AB? It's square root of 103 times square root of 2. And the answer to that will simply be square root of 206. Because when you multiply two radicals, you multiply what's underneath. So the answer here is A.